The cold wind bit through her thin jacket as she stood across the street, watching the warm glow of the restaurant. Rain had started to drizzle and she pulled her jacket closer, trying to ignore the hollow feeling in her stomach that had been her constant companion for the past 3 days. The girl was 12. Though worry had etched lines around her eyes that made her look older, her dark hair hung in 2 braids, the ends fraying slightly. The jacket she wore had once been blue but was now a faded gray, too big for her small frame, a hand-me-down from a neighbor whose daughter had outgrown it years ago. She clutched a small backpack to her chest. Inside was her most precious possession, a folder of sheet music carefully protected in plastic sleeves to keep it dry. Each page was worn at the edges from countless hours of practice. The restaurant across the street looked like something from a different world. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting a golden glow over white tablecloths. Well-dressed people sat at tables laden with steaming plates of food. The girl swallowed hard, her mouth watering at the thought of a hot meal. But it wasn't just the food that drew her attention. In the corner of the restaurant sat a grand piano, its polished black surface gleaming under the lights. No one was playing it. It just sat there waiting, while her fingers itched to touch the keys. 3 days ago, her mom had been rushed to the hospital. The chest pains she'd been ignoring for weeks had finally become too much. "It's nothing," she'd kept saying. "We can't afford a doctor visit right now." But when she collapsed in the middle of their tiny apartment, there was no choice. Now her mom was in the hospital, and the girl was staying with their elderly neighbor, Mrs. Chen, who tried her best but didn't have much to offer beyond a place to sleep. The little money they had went to the hospital, and the cupboards at home were nearly bare. "It's now or never," she whispered to herself, clutching the backpack tighter. Taking a deep breath, she stepped off the curb and crossed the street toward the restaurant. As she got closer, she could see the name etched in gold on the glass door, Bellissimo. Through the window, she watched a waiter carrying a plate of pasta that made her stomach growl so loudly she was sure everyone could hear it. Even through the glass, for a moment she hesitated. People like her didn't go into places like this. Her worn sneakers and faded clothes would stand out like a weed in a garden of roses. But then she thought of her mom in the hospital bed, how pale she'd looked, how she'd made the girl promise to take care of herself while she was getting better. "I'll be fine, Mom," she thought. "I have a plan." Gathering all her courage, she pushed open the heavy glass door. Warm air wrapped around her like a blanket, carrying the smell of garlic, fresh bread, and something rich and savory that made her dizzy with hunger. Heads turned as she stepped inside. A couple near the door paused their conversation to stare. The host at the front desk, a tall man in a crisp black suit, raised his eyebrows. "Can I help you?" he asked, his eyes moving from her dripping jacket to her muddy sneakers. The girl opened her mouth, but no words came out. Now that she was here, standing on the plush carpet surrounded by fine dining and finer people, her plan seemed silly and impossible. "I think you may have the wrong establishment," the host said quietly, stepping around his desk and gesturing toward the door. "Perhaps I can recommend somewhere more suitable?" Heat rose to her cheeks. She knew what he meant. Somewhere cheaper, somewhere for people like her. "No," she said, finding her voice at last. "I'm in the right place." "I'd like to speak to the manager, please." The host's eyebrows rose even higher. "The manager's very busy. If you're looking for employment, applications are accepted online only." "It's not about a job," she insisted. "Well, not exactly. Please, it's important." Something in her voice must have reached him because after a moment of hesitation he nodded. "Wait here," he said, pointing to a small bench near the door. "Do not wander around and do not disturb the guests." She sat on the edge of the bench, her backpack on her lap, and tried to make herself as small as possible as the host disappeared toward the back of the restaurant. More people were looking at her now, whispering behind menus and wine glasses. A woman at a nearby table leaned over to her companion and said something that made him frown in her direction. The girl kept her eyes fixed on the piano across the room. It was even more beautiful up close. A concert grand with the lid propped up, ready for someone to play. Her fingers twitched at the thought of touching those keys, of bringing music to this room filled with whispers and judgmental stares. 5 minutes passed. 10. Her stomach growled again, and she pressed her hand against it, willing it to be quiet. She was beginning to think the host had simply gone to the back and forgotten about her. when a new figure approached. He was shorter than the host but carried himself with an air of authority that made him seem larger. His hair was salt and pepper, combed neatly back from his forehead, and he wore a charcoal gray suit with a deep red tie. "I'm told you wish to speak with me," he said, his voice neither warm nor cold. "I'm Mr. Reed, the manager of Bellissimo." She stood up quickly, nearly dropping her backpack in her haste. "Yes, thank you for seeing me. My name is Lily. And what can I do for you, young lady?" Mr. Reed asked, glancing at his watch. "As you can see, we're quite busy this evening." Lily took a deep breath. This was it, her one chance. "I noticed your piano," she said, nodding toward the grand piano. "No one's playing it." Mr. Reed followed her gaze. "Our regular pianist is out sick tonight. We usually have live music during dinner service." "I can play," Lily said quickly before she lost her nerve. "I can play really well." The manager's expression shifted from polite impatience to surprise, then skepticism. "You're offering to play the piano for our guests?" Lily nodded eagerly. "Yes, sir. I've been playing since I was 4. My mom taught me. She used to play in concerts before." She trailed off, not wanting to get into the whole sad story. "I know lots of pieces by heart. Classical, jazz, even some modern songs that people might recognize." "I see," Mr. Reed said, though his tone suggested he didn't see it all. "And why would a young girl like yourself walk into a 5-star restaurant on a rainy evening, offering to play piano?" This was the hard part. Lily felt her cheeks flush again, but she stood up straighter and looked him in the eye. "Because I'm hungry, sir. I haven't had a proper meal in 3 days. My mom's in the hospital and there's no food at home. I thought maybe I could play in exchange for something to eat." The words hung in the air between them. Mr. Reed's expression was unreadable. In the background, the gentle clinking of silverware and murmur of conversation continued. But to Lily, it seemed as if the whole world had gone silent, waiting for his response. "Young lady," he began, and his voice had softened just slightly. "This is a high-end establishment. Our guests expect a certain level of professionalism. While your offer is unusual, to say the least—" "Please," Lily interrupted, something she would never normally do to an adult. "Just one song. Let me play one song. If people don't like it, I'll leave right away. I promise." Mr. Reed studied her face for a long moment. Lily tried to look confident, trustworthy, talented. All the things she needed to be to convince this man to give her a chance. Finally, he sighed. "Where did you say you learned to play?" "From my mom. She was a piano teacher before she got sick. We have an old keyboard at home that a student gave her when they upgraded. It's missing some keys, but I practice every day." Another pause. "Then what pieces can you play?" Hope fluttered in Lily's chest. "Lots of things. Bach, Mozart, Chopin. I know all of Chopin's nocturnes by heart. They're my favorite." Something flickered across Mr. Reed's face. Surprise, maybe, or interest. "Chopin's nocturnes aren't easy pieces." "No, sir," Lily agreed. "But they're beautiful. My mom says music should always tell a story, and I think his stories are the most interesting." Mr. Reed glanced around the restaurant. Several tables were finishing their main courses. The dessert hour would be starting soon. Typically, that's when their pianist would play softer, more romantic pieces. "One song," he said finally, turning back to Lily. "Nocturne Op. 9, number 2, if you know it. If and only if our guests seem to enjoy it, you may continue for 15 minutes. After that, regardless of the reception, the kitchen will prepare you a meal to take with you. Is that understood?" Lily could hardly believe her ears. She nodded eagerly, clutching her backpack tighter. "Yes, sir. I understand. Thank you so much. You won't regret it, I promise." "See that I don't," Mr. Reed said. But there was the faintest hint of a smile at the corner of his mouth. He gestured toward the piano. "You may leave your backpack with the host. I assume you don't need sheet music?" "No, sir. I know it by heart." "Very well," Mr. Reed said. He turned to the host, who had been hovering nearby, listening to their conversation with poorly disguised curiosity. "Jimmy, please show our guest pianist to the washroom to freshen up, then escort her to the piano in 5 minutes." As Jimmy led her toward a hallway at the back of the restaurant, Lily felt as if she were floating. Her stomach was still empty, but her heart was full of something she hadn't felt in days. Hope. In the elegant washroom, with its marble counters and fancy soap that smelled like lemons, Lily looked at herself in the mirror. Her face was thin, her eyes too big, her hair damp from the rain. She did her best to tidy up, washing her hands and face, smoothing down her hair and straightening her clothes. "You can do this," she whispered to her reflection. "For Mom, for dinner, for music." When she emerged, Jimmy was waiting to lead her to the piano. As they walked through the restaurant, more people noticed her, but this time she kept her head high. She wasn't just a poor girl in a fancy restaurant anymore. She was a pianist about to tell a story. The bench creaked slightly as she sat down. The keys before her were pristine ivory and ebony, so different from the yellowed plastic of their old keyboard at home. She placed her fingers lightly on the keys, feeling their cool smoothness, and took a deep breath. Across the room, Mr. Reed gave her a small nod. It was time. Lily's fingers hovered over the keys for just a moment. The restaurant had grown quieter, though not silent. Some diners continued their conversations, barely glancing her way. Others watched with mild curiosity or thinly veiled skepticism. Near the bar, a group of businessmen laughed loudly about something, oblivious to the small figure now sitting at the grand piano. Mr. Reed stood near the host station, arms crossed, watching. His expression made it clear. She had one chance to prove herself. Lily closed her eyes and took a deep breath. In her mind, she wasn't in Bellissimo anymore. She was in the tiny living room of their apartment, her mother sitting beside her on the worn couch, smiling as Lily's fingers danced across their old keyboard. "Music isn't just notes on a page," her mother always said. "It's what you feel when you play them. Let the music tell your story." And Lily had a story to tell. Her fingers pressed down on the keys, and the first gentle notes of Chopin's Nocturne Op. 9 No. 2 filled the air. The sound that emerged from the grand piano was so much richer, so much more beautiful than anything her old keyboard could produce. Each note rang clear and true, like crystal bells in the night. For the first few measures, nothing changed. The businessmen continued laughing. Silverware clinked against plates. A waiter hurried past with a tray of drinks. But then slowly the restaurant began to transform. The businessmen's laughter faded. Conversations paused mid-sentence. Forks were set down as diners turned to look at the small figure at the piano. Her eyes closed, her thin frame swaying slightly as her hands moved across the keys with surprising grace and confidence. Lily didn't notice any of this. She was lost in the music, in the story she was telling through Chopin's beautiful melody. It was a story of longing, of hope, of the ache that had been her constant companion these past few days without her mother. Every emotion she couldn't put into words flowed through her fingertips into the music. Near the middle of the piece, where the melody climbs higher before settling back into its gentle rhythm, Lily opened her eyes briefly and was startled to see that the entire restaurant had gone quiet. All eyes were on her, not with judgment or pity, but with something that looked like wonder. An older woman at a table near the piano was watching her with tears in her eyes. A young couple had stopped eating entirely, their hands clasped together on the table as they listened. Even the waitstaff had paused in their duties, standing still around the edges of the room. The realization that she had captured their attention could have made her nervous, could have broken her concentration, but instead it gave her courage. These people were listening, really listening to her story, to her mother's story, to the story of everyone who had ever felt hungry or lonely or afraid, but still found beauty in the world. She closed her eyes again and let herself sink deeper into the music. As she approached the final measures of the piece, Lily thought of her mother in the hospital bed, how small she had looked against the white sheets, how she had tried to smile despite her pain. "Keep practicing while I'm gone," she had told Lily. "Music will carry you through the hard times." Her mother had been right. Even now, with her stomach empty and her future uncertain, the music was carrying her. It was feeding a different kind of hunger, one that food alone could never satisfy. The final notes of the nocturne lingered in the air, soft and sweet, like a lullaby. Lily's hand stilled on the keys. For a moment there was complete silence in the restaurant, a silence so profound it seemed like everyone had collectively held their breath. Then, from somewhere in the back, a single person began to clap. Another joined and another until the entire restaurant erupted in applause. Lily opened her eyes, blinking in surprise. The applause continued, growing louder. Some people were even standing. The older woman near the piano was dabbing at her eyes with a napkin. One of the businessmen who had been laughing earlier was nodding in approval, a look of genuine respect on his face. Mr. Reed was still standing by the host station, but his arms were no longer crossed. He was clapping too, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Lily didn't know what to do. She had never played for a crowd like this before. Just her mother, sometimes her teachers at school, and occasionally the elderly neighbors in their apartment building, who would stop by to listen when her mother gave her lessons. She felt her cheeks grow warm as she half stood and gave an awkward little bow. That seemed to please the crowd even more. The applause continued as Mr. Reed made his way across the room to the piano. "Well," he said. When he reached her side, his voice just loud enough for her to hear over the clapping. "It seems our guests approve." Lily looked up at him, hope blooming in her chest. "Does that mean I can keep playing? For 15 minutes, like you said?" Mr. Reed checked his watch, then looked back at the crowd, many of whom were still watching the piano, clearly waiting for more. "I believe I may have underestimated both your talent and our guests' appreciation for fine music. How many more pieces do you know by heart?" "Lots," Lily said quickly. "I know all of Chopin's nocturnes, like I said. And some Bach, Mozart, Debussy. Perhaps a bit of variety then," Mr. Reed suggested. "Another Chopin piece, then maybe something more recognizable for those guests less familiar with classical repertoire. Do you know any film music? Something from those piano compilation albums that are so popular these days?" Lily nodded eagerly. "Yes, I know music from lots of movies. And I can play some pop songs too, but on the piano so they sound more fancy." The hint of a smile on Mr. Reed's face grew slightly. "Very well. You may continue for 30 minutes. After that, as promised, the kitchen will prepare you a meal. 30 minutes. That was twice what he'd originally offered. Lily could hardly believe her luck. "Thank you, sir." "Thank you so much." As Mr. Reed walked away, a waiter approached the piano with a glass of water, which he set carefully on a coaster atop the piano. "Thought you might need this," he said kindly. "It's warm under these lights." Lily thanked him, suddenly aware of how thirsty she was. She took a quick sip, set the glass back on its coaster, and turned once more to the keys. The applause had died down, but the atmosphere in the restaurant had changed completely. There was an expectant hush, a sense of anticipation. For her second piece, Lily chose another Chopin composition, but this time the more playful and bright waltz in B minor. Her fingers danced across the keys with newfound confidence. The melody spun through the restaurant like sunshine breaking through clouds. She could feel people smiling as they listened, some swaying slightly in their seats to the lilting rhythm. When she finished, the applause was immediate and enthusiastic. Lily barely paused before launching into her third piece, the theme from a famous movie about a ship that sank. It was a piece her mother had taught her because so many students had requested it over the years. The familiar melody seemed to delight the diners. She could hear soft gasps of recognition as the main theme began. Between pieces, Lily would take small sips of water, bow slightly to acknowledge the applause, and then begin again. She lost track of time, lost in the joy of playing this magnificent instrument for people who truly seemed to appreciate her music. After what felt like both an eternity and no time at all, Lily noticed Mr. Reed approaching again. Had 30 minutes passed already? She finished the piece she was playing, a gentle arrangement of a popular love song, and looked up at him expectantly. "That was your final piece for the evening," Mr. Reed confirmed. "You've played for exactly 30 minutes. The diners, seeming to sense that the impromptu concert was ending, broke into the most enthusiastic applause yet. Several people were standing. Someone called out "Bravo" from across the room. "Our guests are clearly impressed," Mr. Reed said, his initial skepticism now completely replaced with something that looked almost like pride. "As am I. Where did you say you learned to play?" "From my mom," Lily repeated. "She taught piano lessons before she got sick." Mr. Reed nodded thoughtfully. "She taught you very well. Now, as promised, the kitchen has prepared a meal for you. Would you prefer to eat here or take it home?" Lily hesitated. The thought of sitting at one of those elegant tables being served like the other guests was tempting. But then she thought of her mother in the hospital, who hadn't eaten a proper meal in days either. Could I maybe have it packed up to take with me?" she asked. "And would it be possible to have enough for 2 people?" Something softened in Mr. Reed's expression. Of course, follow me to the kitchen. Our chef would like to meet the young pianist who has so impressed our guests. As Lily stood from the piano bench, something unexpected happened. The diners began to applaud again, but this time it wasn't just for her music. They were applauding her, the small, hungry girl in the worn jacket who had filled their evening with unexpected beauty. A woman stopped her on her way across the dining room. "That was beautiful, dear," she said, pressing something into Lily's hand. "For you and your mother." Lily looked down to see a $20 bill. Before she could thank the woman, an elderly man at the next table added another bill to her hand. Then another diner and another. By the time she reached the kitchen door, her small hand was clutching a wad of cash, more money than she had ever held in her life. Tears pricked at her eyes, but they weren't tears of sadness or hunger. For the first time in days, they were tears of hope. In the kitchen, a tall man in a white chef's coat and a puffy hat greeted her with a wide smile. "So you're our little pianist," he said warmly. "I had to step out of the kitchen to listen." "Magnificent." Behind him, other kitchen staff nodded and smiled. A young woman was carefully packing food into containers, far more than just a meal for two. "We've prepared a little something for you and your mother," the chef said, gesturing to the containers. "Pasta, chicken, vegetables, bread, and of course dessert. Enough for several meals, I should think." Lily was speechless. All she had hoped for was a simple meal, maybe a sandwich or a small plate of pasta. This was beyond anything she had imagined. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "Thank you all so much." As the kitchen staff finished packing the food into a large bag, Mr. Reed appeared at her side. "Lily," he said, his voice serious but kind, "would you be interested in playing here again? Perhaps this weekend? We would, of course, pay you properly for your time." Lily's eyes widened. "You mean, like a real job?" Mr. Reed nodded. "Like a real job? Our regular pianist only plays 4 nights a week. The other 3 nights could be yours if you're interested. A real job. Playing piano. Getting paid." Lily could hardly believe what she was hearing. "Yes," she said, her voice stronger now. "Yes, I would love that. Thank you." For the first time since her mother had gone to the hospital, Lily felt the weight on her shoulders begin to lighten. She had come to Bellissimo hungry and desperate. She would leave with food, money, and something even more valuable: hope for the future. As Mr. Reed handed her his business card with the details for her weekend performance, Lily made a silent promise to her mother. "I'll take care of everything," she thought. "Just like I promised. Just get better and come home." Outside, the rain had stopped. Stars peeked through breaks in the clouds. With a bag of food in one hand and a future in the other, Lily headed home, her heart as full as her stomach soon would be. The hospital corridor smelled of disinfectant and bland food. Lily clutched the bag of containers from Bellissimo tightly as she made her way to room 412. Her heart was racing, partly from excitement to see her mother and partly from having practically run the whole way here from Mrs. Chen's apartment, where she'd dropped off most of the food. She'd kept the best parts, the perfectly cooked chicken with rosemary, the creamy pasta, and a slice of chocolate cake that looked like something from a magazine, all carefully packed in one container for her mom. It was past regular visiting hours, but the night nurse at the desk, a kind woman named Rose who had been looking after Lily's mother since her admission, had made an exception when she saw Lily's face glowing with excitement. 10 minutes only, Rose had warned with a gentle smile. "Your mom needs her rest." Lily had nodded solemnly, promising to be quick. She paused outside the door to room 412, taking a deep breath before knocking softly. "Come in," came the weak reply. Her mother was sitting up in bed, looking pale against the white sheets, but better than she had 2 days ago. Her dark hair, the same shade as Lily's, was pulled back in a messy bun, and her eyes brightened when she saw her daughter. "Lily, what are you doing here so late? Is everything okay?" Concern immediately etched across her tired face. Lily rushed to her bedside, setting the bag on the rolling table. "Everything's great, Mom. Better than great. I have so much to tell you," and she pulled out the container with a flourish. "I brought you real food. Not this hospital stuff." Her mother's eyes widened at the sight of the gourmet meal. "Where did you get this?" "Lily, you didn't spend money on restaurant food, did you?" "We need to save every penny for—" "I didn't spend anything," Lily interrupted, unable to contain her excitement any longer. "I earned it, and more." She pulled out the wad of cash from her pocket, careful not to let any bills fall. "Look," her mother gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "Lily, what? How?" And so, as her mother picked at the delicious food, her appetite still affected by medication, Lily told the whole story, how she'd stood outside Bellissimo, how she'd gathered her courage to speak to Mr. Reed, how she'd played Chopin's Nocturne and moved the entire restaurant to tears and applause. "They loved it, Mom," Lily said, her eyes shining. "They really loved it. And Mr. Reed offered me a job. 3 nights a week playing piano, just like you used to do. He's going to pay me real money." Her mother listened with tears gathering in her eyes, her food forgotten. When Lily finished, she reached out and took her daughter's hand. "My brave, talented girl," she whispered. "I can't believe you did all that on your own." "I wasn't on my own," Lily said, squeezing her hand. "You taught me everything I know. It was like you were there with me, sitting next to me on the bench." A comfortable silence fell between them as her mother tried to process everything Lily had told her. "This job," she finally said, "it's a wonderful opportunity, but you're only 12. You can't be out late at night on your own. And what about school? Your homework? Mr. Reed said I can play from 6 to 8, right after the dinner service starts. I'll be done before it gets too late. And the restaurant is only a 20-minute walk from Mrs. Chen's apartment." Lily had already thought this through. "I can do my homework before I go or the next morning. I always finish it quickly anyway." Her mother still looked concerned, but there was pride shining through her worry. "And you're sure this Mr. Reed is appropriate? He's not asking you to do anything else, just play the piano." "Just play," Lily confirmed. "And Mom, you should see the piano. It's a real concert grand, the kind you always talked about. The sound is so beautiful, like nothing I've ever played before." A nurse poked her head into the room. 2 minutes left, Lily. Lily nodded in acknowledgement before turning back to her mother. "There's something else," she said, her voice growing more serious. "I asked the doctor in the hallway about when you might come home." Her mother's expression grew guarded. "What did he say?" "He said maybe another week, depending on how your tests look." Lily took a deep breath. "And he mentioned something about medication you'll need to take. Expensive medication?" The worry lines on her mother's forehead deepened. "Yes, I know. Dr. Wong and I have been discussing options. There are programs that might help with the cost, but we don't have to worry about that now," Lily said firmly. She gestured to the money in her pocket. "I made almost $200 tonight, Mom, in tips, and Mr. Reed is going to pay me $75 for each night I play. That's $225 a week." Her mother looked stunned. "That much? For just a few hours of playing?" Lily nodded eagerly. "He said that's the standard rate for their musicians. And he might even increase it if I bring in more customers. Some people were already asking him if I'd be playing again." For the first time since she'd been admitted to the hospital, her mother's smile reached her eyes. "My little prodigy," she said softly, reaching out to touch Lily's cheek. "I always knew you had a special gift." The nurse appeared again, tapping her watch. "Time's up, sweetie." Lily stood reluctantly. "I'll come back tomorrow after school. Make sure you eat all the food. The chef made it specially when he heard me play." She leaned down to hug her mother, careful not to disturb any of the tubes or wires. "Love you, Mom." "I love you too, my brave girl," her mother whispered, holding her tight for a moment before letting go. As Lily walked back through the hospital corridors, she felt lighter than she had in weeks. For the first time since her mother's collapse, the future didn't seem like a dark, uncertain thing looming ahead of them. There was a path forward now, a path paved with music. The next few days passed in a blur. Lily went to school, did her homework, practiced piano on the old keyboard at home, and visited her mother every afternoon. The doctors reported that her mother was making good progress, though she would need to take it easy even after being discharged. Friday evening arrived, the night of Lily's first official performance at Bellissimo. Mrs. Chen had helped her wash and iron her best outfit, a simple blue dress her mother had made for a school concert last year. It wasn't fancy, but it was clean and neat. "You look very professional," Mrs. Chen said approvingly as Lily twirled in front of the small mirror in their apartment. The elderly woman had been so proud when Lily told her about the job. She'd even walked to the corner store and bought Lily a small box of chocolates to celebrate. "Thank you for helping me, Mrs. Chen," Lily said, giving the old woman a quick hug, "and for letting me stay here while Mom's in the hospital." "No need for thanks," Mrs. Chen replied. waving her hand dismissively, though she looked pleased. "Your mother would do the same for me. Now go, or you'll be late for your big night." The walk to Bellissimo felt different this time. Lily held her head high, no longer a hungry girl hoping for charity, but a professional pianist heading to work. The evening was clear and mild, the first stars just beginning to appear in the darkening sky. When she reached the restaurant, instead of hesitating outside, she walked straight to the staff entrance Mr. Reed had shown her earlier that week when she'd come to sign her employment paperwork, with Mrs. Chen present as her guardian, a security guard. Checked her name against a list and let her in with a friendly nod. Inside, the kitchen was already bustling with activity as the dinner service was beginning. Several of the staff recognized her from Monday night and called out greetings. "The piano girl, our little maestro." "Knock 'em dead, kid." Lily smiled shyly, still not used to all the attention. Mr. Reed emerged from his office and greeted her with a professional handshake. "Right on time. Lily, excellent." He led her through the kitchen and into the dining room, which was already half full. "We've put up a small sign by the host stand announcing your performance. Several guests from Monday have made reservations specifically for tonight." Lily's eyes widened. "Really, because of me?" Mr. Reed nodded, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "Word spreads quickly about exceptional talent. Now we've prepared a proper program for you." He handed her a small printed card. "Your name and the pieces you'll be playing as we discussed. We've also put a few of these on the table so guests know what to expect." Lily stared at the card in wonder. There it was in elegant script: "Tonight's musical performance by Lily Chen, piano." Below her name was the list of pieces they had agreed on, a mix of classical favorites and popular songs arranged for piano. This is real," she whispered, more to herself than to Mr. Reed. "Very real," he confirmed. "Now there's a small room behind the kitchen where you can leave your things and prepare. The staff break room. Janet will show you." He gestured to a waitress who was arranging flowers on a nearby table. Janet, a woman with a kind smile and bright red hair pulled back in a bun, led Lily to the break room. "Everyone's been talking about you," she said as they walked. "I was off on Monday, but I heard you were amazing. Like a prodigy or something." Lily blushed. "I just love playing. My mom taught me." "Well, whatever your mom did, it worked." Janet opened the door to a small but comfortable room with lockers, a couch, and a mini fridge. "You can leave your backpack in here. There's water and juice in the fridge if you get thirsty. Your set starts in 15 minutes, but take your time getting settled." After Janet left, Lily sat on the couch, trying to calm her suddenly racing heart. This was different from Monday night. Then she had been playing for a meal, desperate and hungry. Now, people had come specifically to hear her. What if she disappointed them? She closed her eyes and pictured her mother's face when she'd visited her yesterday. "You were born for this," her mom had said. "Music runs in your blood. Trust yourself, trust the music, and everything else will fall into place." Taking a deep breath, Lily opened her eyes. She was ready. The dining room had filled considerably in the 15 minutes she'd been in the break room. Nearly every table was occupied, and there was a buzz of conversation in the air. As Lily approached the piano, she noticed several people nudge their companions and point in her direction. Mr. Reed stepped up to the piano just as Lily reached it. He tapped a spoon against a water glass, the clear ringing sound cutting through the chatter. The room quieted. "Ladies and gentlemen, Bellissimo is pleased to present our newest musical talent, Miss Lily Chen." A round of applause followed his introduction. Lily gave a small, nervous bow before taking her seat at the piano bench. She adjusted it slightly, positioned her hands over the keys, and began to play. From the very first notes, she knew this night was going to be different. There was a magic in the air, a connection between her, the music, and the audience that she could feel like an invisible thread binding them together. As she played the opening piece, Bach's Prelude in C major, she could sense the diners leaning in, conversations falling away, all attention turning to the small girl at the grand piano whose music filled the room with beauty. And as her fingers danced across the keys, Lily smiled. This was just the beginning. 2 weeks passed and Lily's life had transformed completely. 3 evenings a week she played piano at Bellissimo, enchanting diners with her music. The restaurant had begun mentioning her in their advertisements, and reservations had increased on the nights she performed. Mr. Reed had even hinted at a possible raise if the trend continued. Tonight was special, though. It was her mother's first night out of the hospital, and Lily had arranged for her to sit at the best table in the house, right near the piano. "Are you sure you're up for this?" Lily asked as she helped her mother get ready in their small apartment. They'd moved back in 2 days ago, after the doctors finally gave clearance for her mother to go home. "We could just stay in. I can make soup." Her mother shook her head firmly. "I've been dreaming of hearing you play at this fancy restaurant since you first told me about it. Besides, I've been cooped up in that hospital room for over 3 weeks. I need to see something besides those 4 walls." She did look much better than she had in the hospital. Color had returned to her cheeks, and though she moved more slowly than before, the doctor said she was making excellent progress. The new medication was working well, and thanks to Lily's income and a patient assistance program they'd discovered, they could afford it. "Well, if you're sure," Lily said, trying to hide her excitement. She'd been looking forward to this night for weeks, her mother finally seeing her perform on that beautiful grand piano, in front of an appreciative audience. "Mr. Reed reserved the best table for you, and the chef is preparing something special. My little professional musician," her mother said, her eyes shining with pride. "When did you grow up so fast?" Lily helped her mother with her coat. The evening had turned cool, and together they made their way slowly to Bellissimo. It wasn't a long walk, but they took their time, her mother pausing occasionally to catch her breath. When they arrived at the restaurant, Mr. Reed himself was waiting near the entrance. He'd never met Lily's mother, but he'd heard so much about her from Lily that he greeted her like an old friend. "Mrs. Chen, it's an honor to finally meet you," he said, shaking her hand warmly. "Your daughter has become quite the sensation here at Bellissimo. We're fortunate to have discovered such talent." Her mother smiled. "Thank you for giving her this opportunity. It means more than you know." "The opportunity is entirely earned," Mr. Reed assured her. "Now please allow me to show you to your table. We have a special menu prepared for you this evening, compliments of the house." He led them to a table draped in crisp white linen, positioned perfectly to view the piano. A small reserved sign had been placed in the center, which Mr. Reed removed with a flourish. "Lily will begin her performance in 20 minutes, he said. "Until then, please enjoy some appetizers. Our chef insisted on preparing them himself when he heard you were coming." After Mr. Reed left, Lily's mother looked around the restaurant with wide eyes, taking in the crystal chandeliers, the elegant decor, the well-dressed patrons. "So this is where you've been working," she said softly. "It's even nicer than I imagined." "Wait until you hear the piano, Mom," Lily replied excitedly. "It's like nothing else. The sound is so rich and beautiful." A waiter appeared with a tray of delicate appetizers, tiny pastries filled with goat cheese and herbs, slivers of smoked salmon on crisp crackers, and miniature cups of creamy soup. "With chef's compliments," he said, placing the food before them. "And may I say, Mrs. Chen, your daughter has brought something special to Bellissimo." "We're all big fans." Lily's mother thanked him, looking slightly overwhelmed by all the attention. When he left, she turned to Lily with raised eyebrows. "Fans? My goodness, Lily, you've become a local celebrity." Lily blushed. "They're just being nice. Really, I just play the piano like I always do." "Don't downplay your talent," her mother said, reaching across the table to squeeze her hand. "You've worked hard for years to develop it. I'm so proud of you." The time passed quickly as they enjoyed the appetizers and caught up on everything that had happened while her mother was in the hospital. Soon Mr. Reed approached their table again. "It's time, Lily," he said with a smile. "Your audience awaits." Lily stood, suddenly nervous in a way she hadn't been since her first night. Playing for strangers was one thing, but playing for her mother, her teacher, her inspiration, that was something else entirely. Her mother seemed to sense her anxiety. "Just play from your heart," she whispered. "Like you always do." Lily nodded and made her way to the piano. The restaurant had filled up completely. There wasn't an empty table in sight. As she took her seat on the bench, a hush fell over the room. Many of the diners recognized her now, and some had even become regulars on the nights she performed. She positioned her hands over the keys, took a deep breath, and began to play. She had chosen to start with Debussy's Clair de Lune, one of her mother's favorites. The gentle, dreamy melody floated through the restaurant like moonlight on water. As she played, Lily didn't look at the audience or even at the keys. She closed her eyes and let the music flow through her fingers, thinking of all that had happened in the past few weeks, the fear, The hunger, the uncertainty, but also the kindness she'd encountered, the opportunities that had opened up, the path forward that had appeared when they needed it most. When she opened her eyes again, she found her gaze drawn to her mother's table. To her surprise, there was an older gentleman sitting with her mother now. He was well-dressed in an expensive-looking suit with silver hair and glasses. They appeared to be deep in conversation, her mother nodding occasionally as the man spoke animatedly. Lily continued playing, moving from Debussy to a Chopin waltz, but her curiosity was piqued. Who was this man, and why was he talking to her mother? By the time she finished her first set, 6 pieces, about 30 minutes of music, the man was still there. As the diners applauded, Mr. Reed approached the piano. "Wonderful as always, Lily," he said. "You have a 15-minute break now. There's someone at your mother's table who would like to meet you." Lily followed Mr. Reed back to where her mother sat with the mysterious gentleman. As they approached, both stood up. Her mother's eyes were wide with excitement. "Lily," she said, her voice slightly breathless. "This is Dr. Thomas. He's the director of the Brookhaven School of Music." The silver-haired man extended his hand. "Miss Chen, it's a pleasure to meet you. Your playing is extraordinary." Lily shook his hand, not quite understanding what was happening. "Thank you, sir. Dr. Thomas happened to be dining here tonight," her mother explained.
"He heard you play, and well—"
"Perhaps he should explain." Dr. Thomas gestured for everyone to sit down. "Young lady, I've been teaching and working with young musicians for over 30 years. In all that time, I've rarely encountered a talent as natural and developed as yours, especially in someone so young. Your technical skill is impressive, but more than that, you play with emotion and understanding well beyond your years." Lily felt her cheeks grow warm at the praise. "Thank you. My mom taught me everything I know." "And she taught you very well," Dr. Thomas said, nodding respectfully to her mother. "But talent like yours deserves the opportunity to grow to its fullest potential. Brookhaven has one of the finest youth music programs in the country. We offer intensive training, master classes with world-renowned pianists, performance opportunities, and much more." Lily's eyes widened as she began to understand what he was suggesting. "Dr. Thomas is offering you a scholarship," her mother said, her voice barely containing her excitement. "A full scholarship to Brookhaven. Not just any scholarship," Dr. Thomas added. "Our Young Artist program. It's normally only available to students after an extensive audition process, but I've heard enough tonight to know you belong there." He handed Lily a glossy brochure. The program includes private lessons, theory classes, ensemble work, and regular performances. We also have state-of-the-art practice facilities with grand pianos that students can use anytime. Lily stared at the brochure, at the photos of beautiful concert halls and students playing gleaming grand pianos. It looked like a dream world. I don't know what to say," she stammered. "Say you'll think about it," Dr. Thomas replied with a kind smile. "Talk it over with your mother. The new term begins in September, which gives you about 3 months to decide. I've left all my contact information with your mother along with details about the school and the scholarship." Mr. Reed, who had been standing quietly nearby, spoke up. "This is a tremendous opportunity, Lily. Brookhaven is one of the most prestigious music schools in the region." "It is," Lily's mother agreed, though Lily noticed a flicker of something. Worry? Sadness pass across her face. It's the kind of opportunity most young musicians only dream about. Before Lily could respond, a waiter approached to inform her that her break was ending. It was time for her second set at the piano. "I should get back," she said, rising from the table. "But thank you, Dr. Thomas. I'll definitely think about it." As she walked back to the piano, her mind was spinning. A scholarship to a prestigious music school. Private lessons. Grand piano she could practice on any time. It was more than she had ever imagined possible. But as she took her seat at the piano bench again, she found herself looking back at her mother. There was pride in her eyes, but also something else. A sadness, perhaps, at the thought of Lily going away. Or maybe concern about how they would manage practically if Lily attended this school. Brookhaven might be offering a full scholarship, but what about their day-to-day expenses? Her mother was still recovering, still unable to work. Lily's income from playing at Bellissimo had become their lifeline. As the diners quieted down, expectantly waiting for her to begin playing again, Lily let her fingers hover over the keys. For her next piece, she had planned to play Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata, but in that moment, Another melody came to mind, a simple lullaby her mother used to play for her when she was very small. It wasn't on the program. It wasn't a famous classical piece or a popular song that everyone would recognize. It was just a simple, sweet melody that spoke of love and safety and home. Lily began to play, her fingers finding the notes from memory, from the heart. As the gentle tune filled the restaurant, she saw her mother's eyes fill with tears of recognition. Whatever decision lay ahead, whatever future was opening up before her, Lily knew one thing for certain. Music had saved them when they needed it most. And no matter where it led her, she would never forget how it all began, with a hungry girl, a kind restaurant manager, and the courage to play from the heart. Summer faded into autumn, painting the trees outside Lily's apartment window in brilliant shades of red and gold. 3 months had passed since that pivotal night when Dr. Thomas had offered her the scholarship to Brookhaven School of Music, and today was her first day. "Do you have everything?" her mother asked, checking Lily's backpack for the 3rd time that morning. "Your music books? Your lunch? Your new pencils?" Lily nodded, watching her mother with a mixture of amusement and love. "Mom, I checked everything twice already. I'm all set." The decision to accept the scholarship hadn't been an easy one. For weeks after Dr. Thomas's offer, Lily and her mother had discussed it from every angle, weighing the incredible opportunity against practical concerns. "What about our rent?" Lily had asked one evening as they sat at their small kitchen table. "My job at Bellissimo is paying for that, plus your medication." Her mother had reached across the table to take her hand. "We'll figure it out. I'm getting stronger every day. In a month or 2, I should be able to start teaching piano lessons again. From home at first, but it's a start." "But what if—" "No more what ifs," her mother had interrupted gently. "This is your chance, Lily. A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. We can't let fear hold you back." In the end, it was Mr. Reed who had helped tip the balance. When Lily told him about the scholarship and her concerns about giving up her job at the restaurant, he'd surprised her with an unexpected solution. "Brookhaven is only 30 minutes from here by bus," he'd pointed out. "What if you continued to play here on Friday and Saturday evenings only? That would give you time for your studies during the week, but still provide income for your family." Lily had been stunned by his flexibility. "You'd do that for me? Change my whole schedule?" Mr. Reed had smiled, one of his rare, genuine smiles that transformed his usually serious face. "Lily, you've increased our weekend bookings by 20%. From a purely business perspective, keeping you on staff is a sound decision. And from a personal perspective," he'd paused, looking slightly uncomfortable with the sentiment he was about to express. Well, let's just say that Bellissimo would not be the same without your music." And so the plan had been set. Lily would attend Brookhaven during the week and continue to play at Bellissimo on Friday and Saturday evenings. Her mother would gradually resume teaching piano from their apartment as her strength returned. It wasn't perfect. Lily would have less free time than most kids her age, and they would still need to be careful with money, but it was workable. Now, standing in their small apartment on the first day of the new school term, Lily felt butterflies dancing in her stomach. Brookhaven was so different from her regular school. What if the other students didn't like her? What if they looked down on her because she came from a poor neighborhood? What if, despite Dr. Thomas's faith in her abilities, she wasn't good enough? "You look worried," her mother observed, tucking a strand of hair behind Lily's ear. "Having second thoughts?" Lily shook her head. "Not second thoughts exactly, just nervous, I guess." "That's normal," her mother assured her. "But remember, your talent earned you this spot. You belong there just as much as any other student." "I know," Lily said, though the butterflies didn't subside. "It's just a big change." Her mother smiled and picked up the small lunch bag from the counter. "Every new beginning is a little scary, but I have something for you, a good luck charm of sorts." From her pocket, she pulled out a small, smooth stone, polished to a gentle shine and small enough to fit comfortably in Lily's palm. Painted on it in delicate blue strokes was a single musical note. "I found this at the craft fair last weekend," her mother explained. "The artist paints these stones with different symbols. When I saw this one, I knew it was meant for you." Lily took the stone, running her thumb over its cool, smooth surface. "It's perfect," she whispered. "Thank you. Keep it in your pocket today," her mother suggested. "When you feel nervous, just touch it and remember that music is your special gift. It brought us through our darkest time, and now it's opening doors to your future." Lily slipped the stone into her pocket, already feeling comforted by its presence. She gave her mother a quick hug, grabbed her backpack, and headed for the door. "I'll tell you all about it when I get home." "I can't wait," her mother called after her. "Play from your heart like you always do." The bus ride to Brookhaven took Lily through parts of the city she'd never seen before. As they traveled from her modest neighborhood to the more affluent area where the school was located, the buildings grew larger and more impressive. By the time the bus stopped at the gates of Brookhaven, Lily was wide-eyed with wonder. The school looked more like a small college campus than what Lily was used to. Several elegant brick buildings surrounded a central courtyard where maple trees were turning bright orange. Students of various ages walked along stone pathways, many carrying instrument cases. Following the directions from the welcome packet Dr. Thomas had sent, Lily made her way to the administration building. A friendly woman at the front desk checked her name against a list and handed her a schedule. "You're in the Young Artist program," the woman noted with an impressed smile. "That's quite an achievement. Dr. Thomas doesn't offer many direct admissions." Lily thanked her and studied the schedule as she walked back outside. Her first class was music theory, followed by a private lesson with someone named Professor Wu. After lunch, she had ensemble workshop, and the day would end with practice time in one of the student studios. As she headed toward the building where her theory class would be held, Lily became aware of the other students around her. Most seemed older, 15 or 16 at least, and they all moved with a confidence Lily didn't feel. Many carried expensive-looking instrument cases, gleaming wood with brass fittings. Nothing like the battered second-hand case her mother had found for her at a garage sale years ago. The stone in her pocket suddenly felt very important. She slipped her hand in and touched it, drawing comfort from its smooth surface. "You look lost," said a voice behind her. "First day?" Lily turned to see a girl about her age with curly red hair pulled back in a ponytail. She was carrying a violin case covered in colorful stickers. "Is it that obvious?" Lily asked with a small laugh. The girl grinned. "Well, you're staring at your schedule like it's written in a foreign language, and you've walked past the theory building twice now. So yeah, pretty obvious." Lily felt her cheeks grow warm. "I didn't realize I was walking in circles." "Don't worry about it. My first day was last year, and I got so lost I ended up in the janitor's closet somehow." The girl stuck out her free hand. "I'm Zoe, by the way, violin. Lily, piano." They shook hands. "So which building are you looking for?" Zoe asked. "Music theory with Dr. Green?" Zoe's face lit up. "Hey, that's my first class too. Come on, I'll show you." As they walked together toward a red brick building with large windows, Lily felt some of her nervousness melt away. Maybe making friends here wouldn't be as hard as she'd feared. The theory classroom was bright and spacious, with about 15 desks arranged in a semicircle. A large whiteboard covered one wall, already filled with musical notations. As students filed in, Lily noticed that most of them seemed to know each other, greeting one another with easy familiarity. "Don't worry, they don't bite," Zoe whispered, noticing Lily's hesitation. Most of them anyway. Class began, and Lily was soon caught up in Dr. Green's energetic lecture on harmonic progressions. The material was challenging but fascinating, pushing Lily's understanding of music in new directions. When Dr. Green played examples on the piano at the front of the room, Lily could hear the principles he was explaining come to life in the music. By the time class ended, Lily's initial nervousness had been replaced by excitement. This was exactly the kind of deep musical knowledge her mother had always wanted for her, but couldn't provide on their limited resources. Her private lesson with Professor Wu was next. In a small studio in the performance building, Lily found the room easily enough, knocked on the door, and entered to find a petite woman with salt and pepper hair pulled back in a bun, arranging sheet music on a grand piano. "Ah, you must be Lily," the professor said, looking up with a warm smile. "Dr. Thomas has told me so much about you. I'm Professor Wu." "It's nice to meet you," Lily said politely, suddenly feeling shy again. "No need to be nervous," Professor Wu said, gesturing to the piano bench. "Let's start by hearing you play something you know well. Then we can discuss what we'll work on this term." Lily sat at the piano, another beautiful grand, though not quite as large as the one at Bellissimo, and placed her hands on the keys. After a moment's thought, she began to play Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major, the piece that had started everything on that fateful night at the restaurant. As she played, she forgot her nervousness, forgot she was being evaluated, forgot everything except the music flowing through her fingers. When the final notes faded, she looked up to find Professor Wu watching her with an expression of quiet delight. "Dr. Thomas was right about you," the professor said softly. "You play with both technical skill and emotional depth, a rare combination especially in one so young." "Thank you," Lily replied, feeling a warm glow of pride. "My mother taught me to always play from the heart. Your mother taught you well. Now let's see where we can build on that foundation." The rest of the day passed in a blur of new experiences. In ensemble workshop, Lily was paired with a cellist and a violinist to begin working on a Beethoven trio. During practice time, she was assigned to a small studio with a baby grand piano all to herself, a luxury beyond anything she could have imagined a few months ago. By the time she boarded the bus home, Lily was exhausted but exhilarated. Her mind was buzzing with new ideas, new musical concepts, new possibilities. When she entered their apartment, her mother was waiting eagerly for her report on the day. "How was it?" she asked, setting aside the stack of sheet music she'd been organizing for her first student, who would be coming tomorrow. Lily dropped her backpack on the floor and threw her arms around her mother. "It was amazing," she said. "Everything I hoped for and more. Thank you, Mom. Thank you for teaching me, for believing in me, for everything." Her mother held her tight. "You did this, Lily. Your talent, your hard work, your courage that night at Bellissimo, that's what opened this door." Later that evening, as they sat together at their small kitchen table eating dinner, Lily thought about how much had changed in just a few months. From hunger and desperation to a scholarship at a prestigious music school, from playing on a broken keyboard to practicing on grand pianos, from fearing the future to embracing it. "What are you thinking about?" her mother asked, noticing Lily's thoughtful expression. Lily smiled. "I was just thinking that sometimes the most beautiful music comes from the hardest times." Her mother reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "And you, my dear, have only just begun your symphony.